Okay, welcome everyone to our village board meeting, the last meeting of the month. Running a little bit late. Please bear with us. We're trying out brand new equipment today that we just got set up here just the other day, and hopefully it works fine. But if anybody has a problem, especially Matt back there, if it's way too loud, there's all sorts of adjustments we can make, but we can go over later. Okay, could everybody stand for the pledge, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first on the agenda. This is called the revised agreements for Marbletown Community Solar Project. Just to remind everybody, we're already in this agreement. We had signed up all of our utility accounts. What we had just recently signed up was our water and wastewater. We didn't put them in originally because of the high demand. Now they allowed us to put them in. We opted in. Once it went back to, I forget the name of it, the community solar project, they realized that we couldn't use the existing contracts from before because they were before the community solar project got started. These are revised just to reflect that the community solar project is already up and running and we're in. So there's nothing new except for the fact that we are changing the agreement to say that we opted in after the solar system was commissioned. Have any questions?
And we're adding.
We already did that.
Oh, we did.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the revised agreements for Marbletown Community Solar Project.
Second.
Questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. We have Eric here from Panda. Thank you, Eric, for coming. Becky turned up with a migraine. Otherwise, she would have been here as well. So, talk briefly about Eric about this. We should be signing an agreement with Panda every year. Kind of at the start of the year to say that we're doing business together with Panda and we agree to the terms and the financials and all that other kind of work. I'm going to just start right out. I like the agreement, but what I don't like about the agreement is the dates associated with the agreement. This is geared towards town schedules. It's geared towards we sign in January and then we commit the money in November. That's what towns do. Their budget process is done, January they're ready, they sign the IMA and then they commit to November. That doesn't align with our schedule, right? We're in a totally different fiscal calendar. I've gone back and forth with the towns and they like it this way. I seem to be the only one that cares, in terms of what it means in terms of our schedule, because we can't commit financially in November for the next year's budget when we haven't done the next year's budget. All right? Does everybody follow me?
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say here? Eric and I spoke. Eric knows that we're not going to pay until July. Right? So what I'm suggesting here is we can sign this IMA and approve the IMA as it is, so it just kind of keeps the flow going and everything else. But I would like to write an addendum to this to say that the Village of Rhinebeck will be paying on the July schedule rather than in the November schedule. And just add it as our addendum, and it doesn't interfere with anybody else.
I think that makes sense. I'm uncomfortable signing a contract that we're just not gonna do an aspect of, because that's right. So if we're gonna sign this contract, then we should do an addendum if we are going to be paying in July instead of in November. We could also just pay in November, but if we'd rather...
We don't know. We haven't gone through the budget process yet to do that. So we'd be out of sync every November in doing that. Because the revised numbers come out in January with the IMA. So when we get subscriber numbers, we'll know the subscriber numbers in January. But yet, towns pay in November. We don't pay until after we approve our budget. and approved based on the volume. Not that
Okay.
it's gonna change that much.
Yeah, no, but just so I'm just trying to understand the agreement. So the agreement is hereby amended to include the following. 2025 budget is set forth as Exhibit 4. Panda shall, on or before August 1st, 2025, submit. And so so the numbers that they give to us on August 1st, 2025 will cover what we owe them for calendar year 2026.
Correct.
So we're just gonna pay 6 months late?
Yeah, which is okay with Panda.
Okay, so it's like, it's still covering calendar 2026, we're just paying halfway through 2026 instead of at the end of 2025.
The other way, we have to draw up our own IMA
Yeah,
with
which
Panda.
is done,
And it's kind of ridiculous because
yeah.
you can only have one IMA that works. You can't have multiple, it's hard to have multiple IMAs. So my recommendation is that we sign the agreement. I'll draft an addendum that will meet our schedule, and we'll just attach our addendum to give it to Panda, and we'll call it a day.
And everybody has to sign the addendum, yeah. No, that makes sense.
All right, I make a motion to approve the agreement for Panda, knowing that we will write a Village of Rhinebeck addendum, in terms of what we pay.
Second.
Any other questions? Eric, do you have anything?
No, and I think, I understand your concern, and I think it always worked that way in the past. We've always built the villages in July, so I think this will just give you comfort that the Ts are crossed and the Is dotted.
I just didn't want to put in writing that we're paying you in November, that's all.
Yeah, fair enough. No, that's fine.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Martina, you want to talk through the forms, please?
Sure, so we have never actually had an official, we've never had an official form for mileage reimbursement. Anytime that anybody's had to use a personal vehicle, what we've had them do is supply a MapQuest map and put that with a PO and just sign off on it. We now have an employee who regularly uses his village vehicle every day that he works here. So figured we needed a mileage reimbursement request form. Additionally, something that we should have but don't, we have a conference seminar form for if ever anybody goes to a conference or seminar, which is supposed to be done prior to them going to get permission. But we don't have an actual travel reimbursement request form that would reimburse them for any of those expenses that they paid out of pocket if it wasn't prepaid. So I have proposed a travel reimbursement and a mileage reimbursement as new forms for our employees to use.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the mileage and travel reimbursement forms.
Second.
Discussion.
We don't currently have a travel policy or a meal reimbursement
Yeah, we do.
policy.
I mean, we've kind of drafted it within our code. It says that we will reimburse, for expenses,
For any of those.
provided they turn in invoices and all that, et cetera.
Okay, I just want to just sort of say out loud that like, we should have a policy that limits the amount that people can spend.
We don't.
Right.
Correct.
Well,
That's a little bit different,
We
yeah.
potentially do. We're getting all of
I know.
our policies. in
Right,
Lexipol.
so like, we're getting all of our stuff in Lexipol. I was just sort of wondering, sort of like a cart horse problem.
We'll get there.
We're sort of like making this look pretty official, but like, we don't have, like, we're working on the thing that it would then bounce against.
And the next one is coming, that part will be coming.
Yep,
And I think that's a good point.
okay, cool.
The only suggestion, thought I have is, I know that folks on the tree commission would be using this form as well, because they get reimbursed for their travel to various tree events.
Well, then they should be filling out conference and seminar attendance forms.
Well, I think they've been doing what they've been doing, but would they need to do this one too?
If they want to get paid back for mileage,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
They'll need to fill out a conference attendant form,
Anybody who would
Mileage.
anything on behalf of the village should get prior approval first,
which they do.
not if they haven't filled out the forms.
No, but I think we've just voted on that in the past, right?
I have not seen any of those come across.
It's been a while.
Okay. But they need prior approval first, and then when they do go, again, if it's something not prepaid, they would fill out one of these two forms.
Okay.
Or potentially both of these forms,
Right.
Okay.
depending on the event.
And Lydia, you're suggesting that we should create a policy that's like up to $400.
Right, I mean, like, when I was in private practice, like, you know, I worked for a fancy, you know, well-heeled law firm, and we still had, like, you couldn't spend more than $50 on dinner, right?
Right.
So, like, we need to make sure that we have policies like that in place, and I know that that will come with Bicycle. The other thing that I did
That's
want to
common.
check is with this travel reimbursement request form, it doesn't say anything about mileage. So like, if you're using your own car to get to the
That's what
place.
the mileage reimbursement forms for.
Oh, so it's for reimbursement, it,
Mileage is mileage, Lydia. If you travel 100 miles to go to Albany.
oh, so
to-
these are the two forms that you submit after the
Yes.
fact?
Correct.
Okay, then no problem.
And then everything over and above mileage is
Yeah.
on an expense
If you're
form.
using the travel form, you're gonna have to use the mileage form, but you don't have to use the travel form.
With the mileage form?
Correct.
Right, okay, yeah, makes sense.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So done.
Thanks, Martina.
You're welcome.
Okay. As a board, we've been talking a lot about the community development block grant, which the county just announced. Let me go back through a schedule, a little bit of where we are and what we've done. I submitted to all of you to get input, because what the county had requested from us is to kind of go through a vetting process first to see if it was something that they would agree to in terms of supporting. We talked about the drainage system at Mini Park. We talked about shade shelters. We talked about crosswalks. We talked about anything that came up in terms of where we are. When we got through that conversation with the county, it went past our January 8th date, which was our last meeting, so we couldn't set a public hearing date. So today, what I'm going to ask you for, I'm going to preempt you, is to first set a public hearing date, which is prior to February 3rd, right? Which is when the county needs to have,
Prior to February 3rd?
excuse me, not February,
March for the application.
LOIs are due February 3rd, so
Um,
there's an intent where you're putting up
let me
projects.
pull up the schedule. And I'm speaking correctly here.
Yeah.
Too many papers. Okay, so the way this works out with the county is, between January and February, you're supposed to do your public hearing. February 3rd is when you need a letter of intent into the county. March 3rd is when applications are due.
So we have to have our public hearing before March 3rd?
We have to have yes, sometime in February, we have to have a public hearing. Right. But I'm going to preempt you all to ask that, since we've kind of vetted out a little bit of the issues here, and we'll take it under discussion if you would like, is to write the LOI, the letter of intent, for a proposed project prior to the public hearing, so that we can get that into the county, and if something happens, then we can rescind it or change it. Okay? Does that, everybody follow me? What I would like to do? So, step number one is we should set a public hearing date. And we can make that our very next meeting, if you would like, in February.
Yeah, the one on the 11th?
Yes.
Yeah, why not?
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to set the public hearing date for the Community Development Block Grant for February 11th at 6 o'clock.
Second.
What is the purpose of the public hearing? Just to give people the opportunity to talk
Voice.
about,
Right.
to talk about the idea that we're proposing, or just like ideas in general?
You can be both.
Okay,
We can propose, here's what we would like to do, take public input on it. The county has said, you want to make sure the public agrees with what you're proposing. If they don't, there may be an alternative that they could suggest and go forward with. Okay? All right, so we have first and second. Any other discussion on the public hearing date? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Part two, the reason why I have Brandy here is we've kind of narrowed it down to, we want to do, or would prefer to do, the drainage at the Village of Rhinebeck Mini Park. So that proposal, which you have seen a verbiage of come through, we would need, if we want to get this into the county, we need to get this into the county before February 3rd, which is a letter of intent. Then the county comes back and says yay or nay, we like your letter, it's robust enough or meets the criteria, and then we still have our public hearing, and if it changes, then it changes, right? So, given where we are, I would like to make a motion that we move ahead and submit a letter of intent for the Mini Park Community Development Block Grant for the drainage system at the park.
Second.
Discussion.
The one night, I'm deeply in favor of crosswalks.
Me too.
But the nice thing about this one is we know how much it's going to cost.
Right.
And at the moment, we don't have a good idea of how much sidewalks and crosswalks cost.
Which is what I informed you of.
Yeah,
I
I'm just sort of saying that into the microphone.
went into deep discussions. The county does like crosswalks, but they want you to have a shovel-ready project.
Right.
We do not, except for this, we do not have a other shovel-ready project that we can move forward because they all have to be done within a year's period of time. The permitting was, I don't know how long, Randy, maybe you could, how long would it take to get shovel-ready for a proposed crosswalk?
Oh, for a crosswalk, probably about 90 days.
Yeah. And then to get the permitting could be another 90, and so we've spent half the year before we even know we're there.
Yeah, we were going to wait for Ruby's to do its crosswalk and then get an idea of how much it costs for them. And yeah, no, I mean, I totally get it.
I just want to make sure everybody understands that crosswalks are important and we could use this, but we needed to be further ahead in our process to be able to be more shovel-ready.
And this is the only park within the village, and it's used by a lot of young, I see a lot of mothers with young children there. It's the only facility for it. We've had a chronic problem there with it being wet. And so solving this problem, I would argue, is really of a great public benefit. So I think well, I like crosswalks too. This is another piece of infrastructure that we could and should be working on as well.
Yeah.
And then it's free. It's free entertainment, healthy entertainment for families, unlike having to pay to go to Kimberly or something.
So I have a question for Brandy. So that's based on the assumption that, you know, when we saw the presentation, there's certain places where the system's not working and might be plugged and so on. How confident are we that that is the problem? Or is there a, you know, what happens if that wasn't the problem? Will this still solve the whole drainage issue?
So if I understand your question correctly, the question is how confident are we that the drainage system on Arnett and North Park in the vicinity of the mini park is failed?
And that's the reason we have this issue?
I would say a very high degree of confidence. There's quite a lot of water that drains through that section of pipe and it just dead ends now. You can actually see in the investigation videos that we took for that section of pipe, the pipe is full of stone. We have proposed to reconfigure that drainage to prevent the road runoff that now flows into the mini park from flowing into the mini park. It would be captured in the drainage pipes and then conveyed beneath the park, and then we would do some French draining around the park itself so that that surface where the children play will stay drier under wet conditions. So it's a belt and suspenders approach to keep it really dry.
I just wanted to, you know, it just sounded not 100% sure in that letter, that I just wanted to make sure that we're pretty sure, so that if we get that project, we're not suddenly surprised and find out that it's still wet and we have to do something else.
So again, just the belt and suspenders approach that we're proposing is that we see that there's two sources of water contributing to the soggy conditions in that park. One being the road runoff from North Park and Arnett, which is a combination of overland runoff that flows onto the park, as well as failed drainage pipes that are no longer conveying water appropriately, as well as, so that water is now just being discharged into the surface beneath the park. So it's contributing to a high groundwater table in that area. So by correcting the drainage piping on the roadway, preventing it from sheeting off, capturing it into the pipe so it can be conveyed past the park, and then providing that's the belt part. And then the suspenders part is to do the French drain in addition. Yeah, we share your concern. We would like to make sure there's a solution there that results in a dry surface.
Which is why it's designed the way it is.
Correct.
So the other important part of this, the grants are available for up to $200,000. This project is $220,000 in total, which includes the $175,000 for the construction with a contingency of 20% added on there, and surveying for $45,000 with an addition, bringing a total up to $220,000. So there is a commitment by the village if we go forward with this. If we ask for the maximum from the county of 200 and then commit our 20, or if we want to commit more than that, that's a commitment we have to make. We don't have to make that commitment tonight, but what we need to do is make sure that we understand that there is a contribution from us that needs to be worked on. And I can work on that if we chose to move ahead on what that commitment would be. But until we had the commitment here from the board, I wasn't going to do that effort.
So, in order to, what's the timeline so that we kind of get a sense of when we would have to make that? Would we have plenty of time?
At the time of the public hearing and by applications are due, March?
I meant in terms of, suppose we get this funding, it's, we're not going to get a response right away. So I'm just wondering, will this be something we need to look at this year for funding, then the next budget?
This year, it'll be in the next budget.
Okay.
The program year starts August 1st. For the county, the program year starts August 1st, 2025. I'd emailed you all this information just so you had it a while back when this community development broadband came out, and that scheduled timeline was included in there. So you need to complete that project within the program year period. So we would be committed into the 25-26 budget for that expenditure. All right, I'd like to make another motion to ask Ty and Bond to work with us.
Last one.
What was the last one? I forget.
You're making a motion to submit the LOI.
Oh,
I have a second.
second, all right. All in favor of submitting an LOI? Aye. Okay. Second part to that is I would like to work with Ty and Bond to develop the letter of intent to submit to the county by February 3rd.
Second.
So there will be, and I've spoken to Brandy, and Brandy has agreed that she would help us with the LOI, right? That's an important, because that's a big step to be able to make.
I'll second that, and then I'll ask a question. Do we have that as part of the budget for this particular project this year?
So we do have money, we have set aside money for the park system.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how much drafting the letter of intent and then helping on the application without cost, but we could create a task order.
Yeah, the
What?
LOI we will do just as a pro bono, that's a relatively small effort. And we've already, through the investigation work, put together costs and a sketch plan. So I do think the grant application is actually a fairly small effort as well.
Okay, great.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
And then, sorry, just one more
Oh,
question.
it's too late.
No, so if they get back to us and let us know if they want us to advance to like the next round. Like if they accept the letter, it's still not like we've got it, right?
No, the letter is just for them to say, this looks like a viable project. Then it goes to the committee for approval. The committee makes a recommendation to the county executive. The county executive has final approval over it. So we will not know until July.
Also, community development block grants are federally funded grants.
Yes.
So I think we should just all note that.
Cross your fingers.
That's it. Hopefully they still exist.
Hopefully our federal government still exists by August.
All right, we're going to move on to schedule our budget hearing budget meetings. Martina, you have that? I don't have all of
Yes,
that. You may have to pull a little bit closer to the mic, Martina, because I don't know if you're getting through.
I am shut, that's short.
No, you're off now.
Bring it, point better. There you go.
We're good. Karen has proposed the following dates for budget meetings. Her first one for capital projects and fund balance was March 3rd. Sorry, March 4th, which is that first Tuesday. I will tell you that there is a planning board meeting at 6.
What time does she want to do it?
3:30.
What time do you want to do it?
So,
3:30. Do you want to discuss each one individually, or do you want to go through the whole schedule?
Can you go through the whole schedule and then make a motion to approve?
Right.
Okay.
So I would propose we do that first meeting on March 4th at 3:30 to begin in front of the planning board meeting.
this is capital project?
It's capital projects and fund balance.
One question, we've been talking about altering our capital projects policy and with dedicated funds and what all that entails. This could be a pretty long discussion that day about what we need to
Get through it, we do. If we don't, we don't. We'll reschedule and pick it up.
Keep going, okay. And it'd be nice to preview some of that material if we can.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll be ready for set up all those reserve accounts, because the schedule that Karen's on right now, she hasn't committed to do that by this week, by
Okay,
March.
and I'm not convinced the reserve account idea is a good idea anyway, so.
Yeah, so we may continue with the current process until we get to that point, and we can always make that adjustment later. It's not required to do it at the beginning of the budget.
I'm happy to send her some links from OSC about the 2 different kinds of reserve accounts.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I've been,
All right, is everybody in favor of March 4th at 3:30?
works for me.
The next one would be fire, water, and sewer. She had on here March 6th, which is that Thursday, but there's court at 5. And it will take longer than an hour and a half.
Yeah, how long are these meetings?
That's, what did we say, was it water, sewer, and fire? They go relatively quickly.
Karen seemed to think that that wouldn't be enough time on that day if you wanted to
Yeah.
start at 3:30.
Well, why don't we start at 3:30, and if we don't get it done, then
Right.
Well, you'd have to stop at like 4:30.
oh.
Yeah, because we got to set up for court.
3 to 4:30?
They don't use any of this for court.
Can we go from like 3 to 4:30?
Yeah, you can go anytime you want.
Does 3 work? 3 works for me,
2 works
On
for
the
me.
6th.
on the 6th.
Yep, 3 to 4:30.
Okay.
We at times have done this in the mayor's office. But not.
That's another possibility too. You don't have to have it up here.
Right.
Yeah.
Karen,
But it's public. It's
Karen
open
seems to
public.
think it'll take longer than an hour and a half.
I think it will too.
If it takes longer than an hour and a half and nobody is in attendance, then we can move it down to the mayor's office. If somebody is in attendance, then we can,
You can also do a different day.
Well,
It gets more complicated once you get outside of Tuesdays and Thursdays though.
yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I think I like the idea of front loading it, because if we have
Or
to
do
put
you want to
something
do
over,
it earlier?
earlier in the day.
Mhm.
Yeah, in the morning.
Like 2.
Want to do a morning meeting, 9 o'clock?
All day.
That'd be different.
We can go 9 o'clock.
We could do 9 to whenever.
A standing meeting.
Huh?
I have a standing meeting that I think it's going to be at 9 a.m.
No, that don't work for you then.
Like 2 o'clock?
2 o'clock?
Two?
Going, do they hear?
2 o'clock.
Sure.
2 o'clock?
Okay, the next one would be Thursday, the 20th, police, court, and environmental. There is potentially a ZBA meeting at 7.
Well, I think we can do it at 3:30. Police, court, and who?
Environmental,
This is on the 20th?
yes.
Big gap.
We'll send out a schedule, by the way.
And
Yeah.
just check my calendar.
Good? 10:30? Okay.
The next one would be March 25th, Highway, Environmental, and General. Your standing second meeting is at 3:30.
Did environmental twice.
Environmental twice, yeah.
Oh, Karen wrote environmental twice. I don't know which one's which then.
Right.
Environmental was up in front of that.
So I guess just Highway in General then?
Yeah,
Okay.
because they're going to take their bigger ones.
So we can do it either after, why don't we just do it after our regular board meeting?
I gotta set a time.
Should we set
Do I
it
say 4:30?
Yeah.
4:30 on the 25th?
Okay.
So in which meeting would Parks fall, the environmental?
General.
General?
The next one would be the 27th for total budget. There's a meeting in here at 6.
Yeah. I would,
It's a quick turnaround for the total budget.
a month.
No, I mean, the last, like, department meeting we're having is on the 25th, and then we're gonna have a total budget conversation on the 27th.
We should be ready.
Wait, the
I'm
27th?
making amendments all the way through.
The 27th?
Yeah,
At what time?
you tell me.
3:30?
Maybe we should start at 2. If that's the Vanessa hour.
We have a meeting that night
At 6.
at 6.
Mhm. The room's being used at 6.
Okay, why don't we start at 2? Is 2 on the 27th work for everybody?
Yeah, I would too.
Total budget?
And then the organizational meeting is the 1st. Our regularly scheduled board meeting is the 8th, but I'm guessing you're not going to be here, Gary?
I will not be here.
Okay. So then the next proposed was to do the public hearing and adopting the budget on the 15th, which that
Planning
is
board.
generally reserved for the planning board.
Yeah, we can't sort of mush in on these first and thirds.
So my recommendation, being that you already have a meeting on the 1st, would be to do it then.
And
Karen wasn't sure if that was too early, but or to keep it on your regularly scheduled meeting for the 8th, but I know you won't be here.
Yeah, and I don't, would prefer not to do that for the final.
Sorry, what's the meeting on the 1st?
Your org meeting,
What time is that?
Is it
6.
the planning board meeting at 6?
Ours is preset the year ahead, so they're not gonna be able to do that day.
Oh, okay. Never mind. So if we have that whole evening, then we might as well do the public hearing that night too. If Karen's
On the
available.
1st?
Yeah. I mean, as long as the planning board isn't gonna show up at 6:30.
You guys ordinarily do it on that second meeting, and we've never had this problem. Karen doesn't think that that's enough time from the total budget meeting for the
Yeah.
public
Right.
hearing.
Yeah.
And plus I could notice it now, so that doesn't really matter. but-
Yeah, I get that. So Gary, you're not gonna be here on the 8th?
Unfortunately, I have a wedding to be in,
Oh. When's she getting married?
the 6th.
Oh, wow.
And I would say the 15th, but you're already kicking the planning board out on the 1st. Well, actually, if it's just the org meeting, they
That's
could.
just 15
They
minutes.
could meet later.
Yeah, they could just start at 6:30.
Correct.
When are you getting back from your daughter's wedding?
TBD, but probably not until, let me pull the calendar up. That following weekend.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. And the 22nd is too late?
Yeah, we have to have it in by the 15th. That's kind of our drop dead date. So
I don't know if we have a lot of choice on this one, Gary.
what's on the planning board's on the 15th?
Yeah.
So,
But we have to have it
You
done
have to have
on the
it
15th.
in by the 15th, and you can't.
yeah,
wait
but this will be a
till
public hearing. I mean, we are gonna be done.
True, but having a public hearing without any opportunity to potentially amend seems like it's having a bad hearing in public, it's having a public hearing in bad faith.
Let me just double check with Karen, but I believe that,
I know, we don't have to do anything to respond to people's comments, but like, having a public hearing,
It defeats the purpose. of
it
having
defeats
a
the
public
purpose of having a public
hearing.
hearing.
not really, if we,
No, it 100%
Well,
does.
let me check with Karen to make sure that if it has to be on the 15th. I think that's when it's proposed.
I don't know how we would have a public hearing on the night of the 15th if something is due on.
I understand. I get your message. So then you pick another date.
Well, you're not gonna be here the week before that.
So
I mean, I would say just do it on the 8th, but
I'm not here.
you're not here.
You have to be here, Gary.
I would prefer to be, as I'm responsible for the budget.
Could we do it on the 3rd?
Well, we're having a meeting on the 1st to follow, right?
Yes,
Or
but she
meeting-
didn't want to do it on the 1st because she thought it wouldn't be enough time. Is that what she said?
The 3rd is what, Wednesday?
Thursday.
Thursday.
That's, I'm gone, because I have to be down there.
Could you zoom in?
What?
Could you zoom in?
No, I'm gonna be in charge. I know,
You want to be.
I can't. We have too much going on.
Well, why don't we set this date then at our next meeting and you figure this out with Karen?
Okay,
Great.
do that.
All right, so you're in agreement for
Everything up to the 15th.
March 4th at 3:30, March 6th at 2, March 20th at 3:30, March 25th at 4:30, and March 27th at 2.
Yep.
Right.
Okay. Can I have a motion?
All in favor, say aye.
I make a motion to do everything you just said.
She made a motion, seconded. All right. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes for 12/10/24.
With Vanessa's comment.
Already done.
Great.
And
Second.
Ellen's edits. Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes for January 14th, 25.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, let's talk about CCA. You want to lead off, or do you want me to lead off?
I can do it if you like.
I'll chime in.
Okay. So, as you all know, we are working with Jewel as our administrator for a potential CCA. It's a multi-phase project, and the next step will be for us as a board to sign an MOU. This MOU basically governs us and the other municipalities, about a dozen or so, that are potentially moving forward with the CCA. It's a non-binding contract. I did pass it to Rich for his review. In the MOU, the important thing to keep in mind is that it sets sort of a ceiling that we as a board have to be comfortable with in terms of what's the rate, what ceiling that we would be comfortable with. Again, it's not binding, but it really kind of herds all the cats of this dozen or so municipalities altogether. We would have to sign that by February 13th. So today, we're just kind of discussing this as a concept. February 13th is when we have to pass an assigned MOU. We are meeting on the 11th, so that's when we could vote on it. The 19th is when the pricing actually comes in, the bids that are responding to the RFP from the suppliers. On the 19th, they give us the pricing like around noon. We have to make a same-day decision because the prices only hold for a day, which is insane. So that's why us discussing this MOU and what really is our threshold that we're comfortable with preemptively is so important, because come the 19th, we need to, it's go or no go.
Right, it's, if we, let's just, hypothetically, let's just say we set a ceiling of 14 cents a kilowatt hour, and it comes in at 13 cents a kilowatt hour, we're pretty much in, we are in, right? We're in the program. We can still opt out if we choose to, but they are going on our MOU to go out and do pricing because they have the RFP that they submitted already. So you really, it's not cool to opt out after if you've accepted the MOU and you set your price right at 14 cents and it comes in at 13. When the pricing comes out at 19, at the 19th and it's at 13, we're in.
Well, that's a question, Gary, like, do we want to, does the board want to vote to authorize you to say yes on the 19th without consulting everybody,
That's
as
the-
long as it's under the
I
threshold.
was gonna bring that up, because there's no opportunity to get a board meeting together to do this, given when we get the pricing
Right.
and have to supply. That's why they're forcing the MOU. If the board agrees to the MOU, that essentially authorizes me to opt in, as long as we're under the ceiling price. I just want to make sure everybody understands, this is a fast thing here. Unfortunately, we're learning more as we go along. I wasn't aware of the MOU at first. I wasn't aware that the MOU set the, then we had to set the pricing limit, and then we have literally 5 hours, 6 hours to respond after we get pricing.
So are we going to talk to other municipalities, or are we just going to, is each municipality just going to set their own?
Each municipality sets their own. It has nothing to do with any other. We set.
But we could
set
talk
what's
to others.
Well, we
and
could talk to
kinda-
them, but
What are you
it's,
guys thinking, yeah?
but it's not, their rate isn't,
No, but it might be helpful to guide us, because this is our first time through.
We could set a special meeting for the 19th.
I don't think it's worth it. If we're under our maximum.
if you're under max, why?
Yeah, if we're under the back, no, that makes sense.
I think one second, Vanessa, you said that Jewel does provide they give us a suggested ceiling. What do those numbers look like right now? Do you-
We don't have them.
Not yet, Karen, okay.
But the MOU does have a suggested price.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, it's 12 for 100% and 11 cents for the
50.
50%.
I thought that was indicative price, not a predictive price. That they're asking, they're going out with their RFP at that rate to ask bidders to bid on that rate. So they put that rate into the MOU, but we don't know what the RFP is going to come back with.
Right.
So it's not, in my opinion, because until they get the RFP back, we're going to know, they're going to give us another pricing sample the 11th.
Yeah, we'll have more information.
We'll have more information on the 11th on to what they think the RFP is going to come back at. We go ahead with the MOU on the 13th, because they're setting the MOU based on those prices that are coming back from the RFP on the 11th. Everybody following me?
It's
So,
indicative pricing on the 11th. The actual bids are on the 19th.
yeah, we don't get actual to the 19th.
And our not to exceed number is due.
On the when we sign the MOU on the 13th.
So I think we should decide what our ceiling is on the 11th.
So start thinking about it. And yeah, at our next board meeting, that's right.
Yeah.
At our next board meeting, we should move ahead with the MOU. We should set our ceiling. We want to be done with this decision made by our next board meeting, excuse me.
And then on the 19th, if it comes in higher, you just say no.
We're out.
You say no.
Well-
And Jules says that they are looking for something that's a good deal for us. So like between 10 and 15% savings over what you would get as just a consumer going to the renewables market. And they said that the chance of getting that good a deal is like a 50-50. So it's very likely, guys, that come the 19th, it's gonna be a big nothing.
Yeah, they
And
may-
we'll have to do this whole thing again in 60 days, try again.
They may say, sorry, we don't have an offer for you.
Or we don't have an offer that's good enough.
Do we have any data on, I mean, they just said sort of 50-50 is 11 cents and 100% is 12 cents. I mean, I'm just sort of like looking through the past 4 months of central Hudson bills, and, non-renewable rates are ranging from, 5 cents to 8 cents.
Right. They said, so what the only thing.
Right
they-
now, my current bill is 6.49. The bill I just got yesterday, for the electric rate, I'm paying 6.7 cents.
Yeah,
So
The
they,
previous one I paid 5.8 cents for.
right.
You can go out onto the Central Hudson website. Again, they offer renewable energy as well.
Yeah.
You can go out and they have ESCOs out there, and you can look at the 12-month pricing for all their ESCOs. Direct Energy is one of their primary ones. Direct Energy is one of Juul's primary ones. You can all night go out and see where Direct Energy is today on the Central Hudson website and see where they're coming back with rates.
And you would think that the CCA, because of the bulk pricing that we're bringing,
Would
would
be
be
better.
about 10 or 15% lower than that.
Lower than that.
That's why I've been trying to get them to give us statistics over the course of this, that past contract, because maybe we would see that in general, it was pretty competitive.
Well, in fact, that's hard. The past contract was at 12 cents, okay? That's a fixed price
I
for
understand
2
that.
years. Well, let me finish. It was a fixed price for 2 years, irregardless of any fluctuation. Whoever was in the CCA paid 12 cents per kilowatt hour.
That's not my point, though. My point is that if it turns out that the CCA was at 12 cents and I was paying 15 cents for quite a while, then it might balance out the fact that right now, there's that difference in the other direction, that's all
And
I'm
they
saying.
shared that information. 21, 22 were good years. Electric rates went up to 18, 19, 20 cents a kilowatt hour. But after 22, the electric rates dropped significantly. Since 2022, the electric rates for Central Hudson rates, have been significantly cheaper than the renewable energy rates, since 2022.
Right. They can look at the trailing average.
No, I get that.
And they think it's about 8 cents. Right, 8 and change.
And that's
for the
For
trailing average.
Central Hudson, average.
100%?
No, Central Hudson utility rates, the average is 8 cents.
Yes, but I'm just saying, was that 100% renewable for Central Hudson?
No, that's Central
That's
Hudson.
not the regular.
Vanilla.
I know, that's what I'm saying, so we're comparing apples, elephants, and oranges. That's all I'm saying.
Yes and no, we're comparing,
You're comparing your choices as a consumer.
yeah.
And all you have the data to go on is just what has happened in the past. Who knows what will happen in the future?
You have
I understand all that, I'm
Yeah.
just saying that they should compare the standard, their standard of 50%, whatever, that's what they did with the town, they compared the 100%, so people could see how much, a little bit more they would pay for the 100%, and it's just much easier to make a decision, that's my two
And we can have Jewel come to our next meeting.
Oh,
and-
yeah, actually,
And actually,
they offered to.
he would,
that.
if you have that question, you could ask him at the
Ask
next
them to
meeting.
come. Okay, we'll ask them to come on the 11th, they offered.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyways, this is just
People-
discussion.
Yeah, just because people who
We're not
are,
voting on it, just to be clear, we are not voting on anything tonight.
yeah,
It's just discussion.
right, because like my only concern, because the half of the Central Hudson bill that we have no control over is like 21 cents a kilowatt hour, it's bananas. And so,
It's not a rate.
no, it's their distribution charge and they
Yeah.
do
The
it.
service charge is 21 cents.
Right, and so the point of my story is that people who aren't paying attention to this and aren't necessarily paying attention to renewable energies, but are paying attention to their electric bill, like how much is a $200 a month electric bill gonna change if their average sort of, coal-fired energy switches to renewable? Is it gonna go from $200 to $250? Is it gonna go from $200 to $225? It's like, I think like that's some of the information that we need to know, because I don't want as much of the information as much of the public information, as much as everything that's being pushed out to people. People are still gonna be taken by surprise by this, so we just need to be a little bit careful on that one.
And that's where everybody can look at that, because for instance, I'll use my bill, I've used 1,000 kilowatt hours at 6.7 cents a kilowatt hour, right? If the renewable energy comes back at 12,
That portion doubles.
Right. That portion doubles, but so does your delivery charge based on your electric rate. It doesn't go up because that's just your delivery charge.
Yeah, the delivery charge doesn't
It
change.
stays the same,
What percentage of your bill is delivery charge?
Half.
or more than half.
No, way
Oh,
more than half.
More than half.
Way
Yeah,
more
the-
now.
Right,
Two-thirds of my bill is delivery charge,
because it's all based on kilowatt hours.
consumption.
Right,
Right, and
right,
so,
so,
like-
but the point is that if we are, even though the purchase of the electricity may become more expensive, it is only.
Oh, it's only
a
gonna
third-
impact-
That's
right.
1/3 of the price of the bill.
Right.
That's really,
Yeah.
that's where the math gets tricky and people need to understand.
Totally, absolutely.
Listen, if you want to get into this program to save money on your electric rate, don't do it.
No.
Right,
Do not do it.
right.
If you want to get into this program because you want to have renewable energy and you think we need to move forward to help the state meet putting more renewable energy on the grid, and you can afford the increase in the electric rate, then opt in,
Right.
right? I mean, don't opt out.
Don't opt out, right.
Don't opt out.
That's the part that concerns me, is the don't opt out part. So, but that's fine.
But people can
We'll
opt,
figure it out.
people can opt out at any time.
Yeah. we'll
The
figure it
other
out.
thing to mention here is like there's kind of a third way, which is maybe a little bit of a compromise. So they're going to be giving us pricing for both 100% renewable and the 50% renewable. When they say 50% renewable, that's a little bit of a misnomer. It's 50% New York State source renewable. The other 50% is also renewables, but just not from New York State.
And it's all hydropower, renewable energy, yes.
It's Quebec.
Go back and.
Quebec.
The reason
Quebec.
they're pushing, 100% New York renewables is because we are trying to help with New York's marketplace here and push the renewable marketplace forward with our buying power.
Got it.
But so the 50% is not 50% renewables and 50% fossil fuel.
Got it. That's helpful.
And so that will be a bit cheaper than the 100% New York renewables.
Okay.
We also learned, by the way, that opting in, to be in the program, there's a 30-day window. Pretty simple to opt out if you want to do it at that 30-day window. After that time, if you want to opt out, which you can, it's a 2 to 3 billing cycle period to opt out. And if you want to jump back in, it's a 2 to 3 billing cycle to jump back in.
So the arbitrage, play in the market
So
is
if
not there.
you think you want to hit that sweet spot, don't do it.
Yeah. I think we should, our communication to the public should really be like, hey, if you want clean energy and you're willing to pay a little bit more for it, and to have a stable rate, a locked-in rate for a period of contract, this is for you.
Right.
If not, no shame, like, you
Opt
can
out.
opt out.
Also, I think to stress the fee, no fee, because some of these outfits,
And that there's no fee to opt out, exactly.
right, you have to pay to get in, pay to get out, and you don't know
Yeah.
how much it is and so on, so there's no fee.
All right, so based on what Vanessa and I learned, is there any other questions about this? You think you're ready to go down this path? All right, very good. All right. We're going to make a motion to adjourn at 4:25.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.